Hello, I'm Adriana. I'm a Master SoulPath Teacher and Guide. Today we're looking at a reading for Virgo, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus in Virgo. I will be bringing messages through, channeling messages to help you on your path at this time. And as with all my readings, I do ask that you take this information with the spirit of empowerment. That this is not prescriptive or predictive in a way that disempowers you. This is a way that helps you have more context and more information at your disposal so you can make your best choice. Okay, so let's get these cards all set. All right, Virgo energy, please. Situation, the world. Interesting. And then your reaction, justice. Okay, that kind of sets up pretty nicely here. All right. So, it's funny. What is jumping out at me on this card is the world in the middle of the world. So Virgo, this is about understanding that you have completed a really important stage of your journey. It's almost like it's come full circle. And I think that this journey is to do with feeling at home, how does this work? Feeling at home with being at home. And I'm not necessarily talking about your literal dwelling with four walls around you, but it's coming home. This is a feeling of culmination, of completion, of coming back to where you started, more healed, more wise, more at peace with where things are. And it's just so interesting to me that the planet itself is popping out on this card, because the message is, it really is about your world, what is in your world right now. How are you feeling about your world? And I do feel as though, because your reaction, the Justice card, there is a balance, there is a peace. I think you are feeling more at peace than you have been. And this is really important to realize, because does it have to do? No, it doesn't have to do with the will to self-improve. Why is it important that Virgo realize they're at peace? Because it's going to help you make more balanced choices for the future, less reactive choices, more choices that are just from that place of even keel and calm. Justice is also saying that there may or may not be someone counterweighting you, if that makes sense, balancing you out, and you're kind of leaning into that balance, understanding what balance really means, that you don't have to be over on one side or the other, that you can be in this very stable place because the weights are balanced, right? When things are unbalanced, it's unstable. Like when the table, if one leg is higher than the other, then the table is kind of wobbly. But when everything is balanced, the table is very secure. So I think this is about leaning into that security a bit more, leaning into that feeling of having a better balance between the masculine and the feminine, between your dualities, and really allowing your heart to fill your world, if that makes any sense. Your heart to fill that space around you, within you. And that your heart really is the key to continuing creating this feeling of peace and balance and harmony. It is truly what your heart wants, is that feeling of stability, is that feeling of peace and love. And I think the World card is really saying, yes, you can have this. You can be, this is you. You just need to be connected to it. So, advice for Virgo, 5 of Cups. What's out of Virgo's control? The Hanged Man. So 5 of Cups, we have a release happening. So there is a strong feeling of letting go of the past, letting go of what didn't work out in the past, letting go of things that just weren't meant to be, and looking forward to the future of things that are meant to be. The 2 cups that are upright, very much like the balance of the 2 sides of the scale on the Justice card. So, with 5 of Cups being an emotional card, the traditional way to read this is about relationships, letting go of relationships that failed and looking to the future for that new sustaining partnership. But I think that this has an even more spiritual, deeper message for you, because when you let go of what didn't work and you hold on to what does work, again, we're talking about how do you continue this feeling of balance for the future? How do you continue this feeling of harmony for the future? And it's funny because harmony and balance are really the key to health. We have all sorts of different elements in our body, and the key to having a healthy system of any kind is to have all of those elements in balance. You can even see it in food. If something is well balanced, has a little bit of each taste, it actually feels really pleasurable to eat because one thing isn't competing with another. And it helps, like, you don't crave too much of it, but you feel satiated by it. So there's balance comes up in a lot of ways. Also in relationships, you don't want people that have too much of the same way of doing things. You want something that can balance the other person's weakness or help support the other person's strength. There's a lot of different ways that balance comes into your life, Virgo, and I think that this is a new time of learning how to surrender. This is the Hanged Man for you, learning to surrender to that balance, learning that the future is about balance rather than kind of blind, or blinders, not blindfolded, but like having blinders on one goal. And everything is, when you have blinders on one goal, then you tend to focus everything onto that one goal, and then you kind of lose sight of everything else. So, for me in the past, as an example, I was such a workaholic that I wanted to put everything into my work, all my energy. So I didn't pay attention to my health, really didn't pay attention to my social life or deepening connections. I had certain people that I was connected to, but I really wasn't paying attention to how I was developing those connections. So there was a lot of kind of negative, toxic energy there. I didn't give myself days off. I didn't give myself time off because I was just so focused on one thing. And as a result, health didn't do so well. Relationships were not supportive. And I started to get really burnt out because I was going too much in one direction. So having a balanced life is really the key to having longevity and stamina and fulfillment, really, because a life that is so one track that leads to burnout is not fulfilling at all, because the more you work, the more you feel like you have to do. You never learn to put something down. And that's the key with balance. You work on this for a little bit, you put it down. You pick up something else, you work on that for a little bit, you put it down. You work on this, you put it down. It helps you just have breaks between what you're doing because you're keeping all of these pieces of the puzzle afloat at once. And that's something that you're really learning how to work on. So, I'm wondering also for you, Virgo, if these 3 cups that were spilled has to do with maybe 3 different areas of life that just didn't work out because you were not in balance. So think about that. Just consider it, because I do feel like you're starting to kind of get the hang of what balance really is. Growth potential, Prince of Wands. So increased vitality, increased creativity, increased sense of play, increased sense of courage, and more strength just in general. So this is kind of like what we were talking about as a metaphor with health. When health is in balance, you feel strong, you feel vitalized, you feel energetic. This is the confirmation of that. But you're also going to feel more willing to create, more excited to create, and more excited to manifest. This is really, this is like sheer energy that comes out of the heart. This is sheer energy that loves to just make the world better and has a lot of joy in going after their passion, has a lot of joy in going after what brings them light. So again, using the workaholic metaphor, when you're headed for burnout, that's a foreign concept. When I was doing all of the working, nothing was fun. I never got to laugh. I never found playfulness. It just was so heavy. And so you regain some of that playfulness when you come into balance, some of that lightness. Okay, and outcome of this, Strength card. It's another confirmation. Strength card is just that, the strength of the heart, the power that comes when the heart is open and aligned and, like I said, well balanced. I really focused on the heart on this Justice card because that is really the key to understanding what balance is. The heart has two sides, right? Left and right, and there's an in and an out. So the heart is always going between two dualities, pumping in or pumping is this thing, right? It contracts and releases. So it doesn't stay contracted, it doesn't stay released, it does both. So there's a balancing act even in the mechanism of the heart. But the heart as an energetic concept is about giving and receiving. So I feel like the Strength card is showing you that when you take all this in, you are left with a really deep sense of vitality, a really deep sense of courage. And there's also a healing of the feminine energy, of the feminine heart, that it's like there's an emotional balance that happens as well. Because of these other areas of balance, you're not so emotionally volatile, or you're not so emotionally, could go the other way, emotionally repressed. There's a flow and there's a feeling of acceptance that comes with that heart being balanced. And this is self-acceptance. There's also just, I'm getting just sheer power coming off of this card. So the power for you, Virgo, is coming from understanding what balance really is, and living that principle of balance will lead you to this power. Because it's funny, we've got the figure 8, which is a top and a bottom. There's a balance kind of inherent in that symbol. And I think that also with understanding the principles of balance, you're going to have an easier time standing up for really what's right, what needs to happen. I'm getting a sense that the boundaries are going to be even better. You're going to have an easier time with boundaries. And you're really going to find and be at home with your true strength. There's been a depletion because of the lost energy not working out. But it's like there's a quiet healing that takes place with this Strength card, that you find that pillar, you find your own inner pillar of strength, you find that backbone that perhaps has been lost because of where your focus is. It's funny because when I think of hanging upside down, that releases your back, right? It creates more space in the spine if you're suspended upside down. And this Strength, Leo rules the back actually, and we have that beautiful lion on the card. It's like you find your back again. You find, there's like a back behind you. And then we're at the world idea, you're back home, like literally back home. So, Anything else want to come out? Remember that feminine strength isn't about overpowering or speaking louder or having more brute force. It's having the gentleness and tenderness to connect at a deeper level with people. It's about coaxing something open rather than forcing it open, or gently listening and lending support rather than pushing an idea. There's a strength in gentleness. And I think that's something to keep in mind as well. This isn't about proving who's faster, stronger, better. This is about gently knowing and having a sense of what your strength really is. I had a friend a while ago who was either wrestler, like a top wrestler in high school or top in college or something, but he was a very accomplished wrestler, big guy. And he was not in that field anymore. He was actually in a creative field, and people would come up to him like, hey, show me what you got, and he would just be like, okay, you go sit down. He just knew that he was strong enough to overpower him, that he didn't even want to get involved, because he knew that they were just, it was like false or empty, or it was just like posturing, right? So he was so sure of himself that he could just say, yeah, no thanks. He had nothing to prove. And it's that kind of energy that I feel with the strength card, that you have nothing to prove, so you don't have to shove your strength at people. When you're in that balanced place, you know what your strength is, and there's no need to prove yourself anymore. All right, Virgo, thanks so much for joining me. If you're asking questions about your soul path, what did my soul write for me? Am I on the right track? Why do I feel lost? What's my next step? Please reach out to soulguidancewithAdriana.com or my email, which is in the description below. Those are exactly the questions I love to help people find the answers to. And I have a very powerful way of doing that for you. There's a lot of powerful tools at our disposal. So questions about that, please let me know, and I look forward to seeing you soon.